Let Us Be Muslims by Sayyid Abul Mawdudi, edited by the late Mr. Khurram Murad. May both their soul be placed among the blessed by our beloved. Chapter 1. Knowledge, the first steps. Allah's greatest gift. Brothers in Islam, we all as Muslims sincerely believe that Islam is the greatest blessing that Allah has given us in this world. We find our hearts filled with gratitude to Him for including us in the Ummah of the Prophet Muhammad. Blessing and peace be on him, and bestowing upon us this unique blessing. Allah Himself described Islam as His most invaluable gift to His servants. Today, I have perfected your deen, your way of life for you, and I have completed my blessing upon you, and I will that Islam be the way for you. Al-Ma'idah, Ayat 3. To be truly grateful for this greatest favor, you must therefore render to Allah His due. If you do not do so, you are undoubtedly an ungrateful person. And what ingratitude can be worse than to forget what you owe to your God? How can we, you may ask, render these dues? Since Allah has been gracious enough to include you in the Ummah of the Prophet Muhammad, blessing and peace be on him, the best way of showing gratitude, and there is no other way, is to become totally committed followers of the Prophet. And since He has made you a part of the Muslim Ummah, to become true Muslims. If you do not, the punishment for you, for your ingratitude, will be as great as the original gift was. May Allah save us from this great punishment. Amin. You will now ask, how can we become Muslims in the true sense of the word? This question I shall answer in considerable detail in my forthcoming addresses. But today, I want to look at a point of fundamental importance, without which we cannot hope to discover true faith. This, you must understand, is the first essential step on your road to becoming a true Muslim. Is Islam a birthright? But first, think for a while. What does the word Muslim, which we all use so often, really mean? Can a person be a Muslim by virtue of his birth? Is a person a Muslim simply because he is the son or grandson of a Muslim? Is a Muslim born a Muslim, just as a Hindu Brahman's son is born a Brahman, or an Englishman's son born as an Englishman, or a white man's son is born a white man, or a Negro's son is born a Negro? Are Muslims a race, a nationality, or a caste? Do Muslims belong to the Muslim Ummah like Aryans belong to the Aryan race? And just as a Japanese is a Japanese because he's born in Japan, is a Muslim similarly a Muslim by being born in a Muslim country? Your answer to this question will surely be no. A Muslim does not become truly a Muslim simply because he is born a Muslim. A Muslim is not a Muslim because he belongs to a particular race. He is a Muslim because he follows Islam. If he renounces Islam, he ceases to be a Muslim. Any person, whether a Brahman or a Rajput, an Englishman or a Japanese, a white or a black, will, on accepting Islam, become a full member of the Muslim community. While a person born in a Muslim home may be expelled from the Muslim community if he gives up following Islam, even though he may be a descendant of the Prophet, an Arab, or a Pathan. Such will surely be your answer to my question. This establishes that the greatest gift of Allah, which you enjoy, that of being a Muslim, is not something automatically inherited from your parent, which remain yours for life by right, irrespective of your attitudes and behavior. It is a gift which you must continually strive to deserve if you want to retain it. If you are indifferent to it, it may be taken away from you, God forbid. No mere verbal profession. You agree that we become Muslims only by accepting Islam? But what does acceptance of Islam mean? Does it mean that whoever makes a verbal profession, I am a Muslim, or I have accepted Islam, become a true Muslim? Or does it mean that just as a Brahman worshipper may recite a few words of Sanskrit without understanding them, a man who utters some Arabic phrases without knowing their meaning becomes a Muslim? What reply will you give to this question? You cannot but answer that accepting Islam means that Muslims should consciously and deliberately accept what has been taught by Prophet Muhammad, blessing and peace be on him, and act accordingly. People who do not behave are not Muslims in the true sense. No Islam without knowledge. Islam, therefore, consists firstly of knowledge and secondly of putting that knowledge into practice. A man can be white and have no knowledge. Because he is born white, he will remain so. Similarly, an Englishman will remain an Englishman though he may have no knowledge, because he has been born an Englishman. But no man becomes truly a Muslim without knowing the meaning of Islam, because he becomes a Muslim not through birth but through knowledge. Unless you come to know the basic and necessary teachings of the Prophet Muhammad, blessing and peace be on him, how can you believe in him, have faith in him, and how can you act according to what he taught? And if you do not have faith in him, knowingly and consciously as fully as you can, how can you become true Muslims? Clearly, it is impossible to become a Muslim and remain a Muslim in a state of ignorance. Being born in Muslim homes, bearing Muslim names, dressing like Muslims, and calling yourself Muslims is not enough to make you Muslims. True Muslims know what Islam stands for and believe in it with full consciousness. The real difference between a kafir who does not accept God's guidance and is ungrateful to him and a Muslim is not that of a name, that one is called Smith or Ramlal and the other Abdullah. No one is a kafir or a Muslim simply because of his name. Nor does the real difference lie in the fact that one wears a necktie and the other a turban. The real difference is that of knowledge. A kafir does not understand God's relationship to him and his relationship to God. He does not know the will of God. As he does not know the will of God, he cannot know the right path to follow in his life. If a Muslim too grows up ignorant of God's will, what ground can there be to continue calling him a Muslim rather than a kafir? Dangers of ignorance. Listen carefully, brothers, to the point I'm making. It is essential to understand that to remain in possession of or to be deprived of the greatest gift of Allah, for which you are so overwhelmed with gratitude, depends primarily on knowledge. Without knowledge, you cannot truly receive his gift of Islam. If your knowledge is so little that you receive only a small portion of it, then you will constantly run the risk of losing even that part of that magnificent gift which you have received unless you remain vigilant in your fight against ignorance. A person who is totally unaware of the difference between Islam and kufur, that is, rejections of God's guidance and ingratitude, and the incongruity between Islam and shirk, that is, taking gods beside gods. It's like someone walking along a track in complete darkness. Most likely his step will wander aside or on to another path without him being aware of what is happening. Maybe he will be deceived by the sweet words of the devil. You have lost your way in the darkness. Come, let me lead you to your destination. The poor traveler, not being able to see with his own eyes which is the right path, will grasp the devil's hand and be led astray. He faces these dangers because he himself does not possess any light, and is therefore unable to observe the road signs. If he had light, he would neither lose his way nor be led astray. This example shows that your greatest danger lies in your ignorance of Islamic teachings and in your unawareness of what the Quran teaches and what guidance has been given by the Prophet, blessing and peace be on him. But if you are blessed with the light of knowledge, you'll be able to see plainly the clear path of Islam at every step of your lives. You'll be able to identify and avoid the false paths of kufur. Will also be able to identify and avoid the false paths of kufur, shirk, and immorality which may cross it. And whenever a false guide meets you on the way, a few words with him will quickly establish that he is not a guide who should be followed. Acquire knowledge. Brothers, on this knowledge, whose absolute necessity, I stress once again, depends whether you and your children are true Muslims and remains true Muslim. It is therefore hardly a trivial matter to be neglected. You do not neglect cultivating your land, irrigating and protecting your crops, supplying foders to your cattle, or doing whatever else is essential to the well-being of your trades and profession. Because you know that if you do so, you will starve to death and so lose the precious gift of life. Why then should you be negligent in acquiring that knowledge on which depends whether you become Muslim and remain Muslim? Does such negligence not entail the danger of losing an even more precious gift? That is your iman, your faith. Is not iman more precious than life itself? Most of your time and labor is spent on things which sustain your physical existence in this life. Why can you not spend even a tenth part of your time and energy on things which are necessary to protect your iman, which only can sustain your being in the present life and in the life to come? Which only can sustain your being in the present life and in the life to come. I'm not asking you to become scholars, read voluminous books, or spend a large part of your lives in the pursuit of knowledge. It is not necessary to study so extensively to become a good Muslim. I only want each of you to spend about 1 hour of the 24 hours of the day and night to acquiring the knowledge of his deen, the way of life, the Islam. Every one of you, young or old, man or woman, should at least acquire sufficient knowledge to enable him to understand the essence of the teachings of the Quran and the purpose for which it has been sent down. You should also be able to understand clearly the mission which the Prophet, blessing and peace be on him, came into this world to fulfill. You should also recognize the corrupt order and system which he came to destroy. You should acquaint yourself too with the way of life which Allah has ordained for Muslims. No great amount of time is required to acquire this simple knowledge. If you value Iman, it cannot be too difficult to find 1 hour every day to devote to this. Subhanallah, walhamdulillah, wa la ilaha illallah, wallahu akbar, wa la hawla wa la quwwata illa billahil aliyyil azim, wa la hawla wa la quwwata illa billahil aliyyil azim. Wala hawla wala quwata illa billahil aliyyil azim.